Hello and welcome to my channel and welcome to this video about flight simulation, more specifically how to get started with flight simulation. Home flight simulation is a wonderful hobby for all avgeeks, has many advantages but can be a bit confusing when starting out, and this is why I've decided to record this video, because I remember when I was starting out with flight simulation there were some videos on YouTube, but they were mostly very old and some information wasn't really relevant anymore, so right now I don't think there are any videos like this currently. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So, in this video I'll go over different approaches to flight simulation, then I'll tell you all the basics about software, hardware and expanding the hobby or the different possibilities you have. So, first of all, there are different kinds of flight simulation users, from casual gamers to avgeeks, and then flight simulator enthusiasts and even real pilots practicing stuff and maneuvers in simulators. Now, the first thing I'll go over is choosing software. Now, you might have already done that, you maybe haven't. I'll still go over this. Now, there are different options for different kinds of simmers. Right now, the most popular ones are X-Plane, 11 and Microsoft Flight Simulator, but there are still other options for some people. Let's first go over X-Plane 11. X-Plane 11 is a fantastic simulator with best flight realism and is also suitable for practicing real flying, so for student pilots and for IFR flying, for practically everything. Has many add-ons and can also run on lower spec computers. Now, this is something a lot of people don't know. A lot of people actually think that you need a very high-end PC to run X-Plane 11, but that is absolutely not the case. Now, about realism, this simulator actually works a bit differently from other simulators, and that is because the plane developer doesn't tell the simulator how the plane will behave. Rather, the complicated mathematical formula and the physics engine calculates how the airplane will behave based on the flight model itself. So that's why this simulator is by far the most realistic in terms of how the aircraft will perform in air. Now, another option, and the most recent addition you probably haven't missed, is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Now, as we all know, this simulator has the most stunning visuals and really nothing beats it in terms of graphics. But that also means you will need a bit higher end PC for it. Now, this is a nice example of a simulator which is also partly game, because it is suitable for casual gamers. You don't need to be an aeroplane expert and know everything about aviation in order to have fun with it. And another nice thing about this one is it has a really massive community. Now, X-Plane also has a big community, but in terms of simply the player count, this is a bigger game because it's a AAA title and there are also a lot of, as I said, casual gamers playing it. Now, there are also some other options. If you have a really low spec PC which isn't gaming by any means, and you can't run pretty much anything on it, then Microsoft FSX might still be a good option. FSX is actually an old Microsoft Flight Simulator. I think it came out in 2006, so yeah, pretty old. But it's still quite realistic and can provide you with a lot of fun when flying. I started out with this simulator and it is really a nice one. Then some people use Prepared. Now, Prepared, or P3D for short, is a simulator which was developed from Microsoft FSX, used by a lot of people. I know some personally, but I've never used it, so I can't tell you a lot about it, but you can find more on the web. And as I've said, it's still quite a popular one. Maybe not so now when the Microsoft Flight Simulator is out, although I don't think they're really that competitive, because Prepared still is a little bit more realistic in terms of it's made for people who really want to experience realistic flying, maybe less for casual gamers than the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Now, there is also a free flight simulator, Flight Gear. It's an open source flight simulator, so it's also available on Linux. Well, X-Plane 11 is also available on Linux, but more about operating systems later. Now, Flight Gear isn't really that much of a nice flight simulator, but it probably is the best free option out there. Now, there are also some more flight simulators. A popular one is Airfly, I think, and there are some more. And those are basically all of the best options for computer. Now, for people on the go, there are some nice mobile flight simulators, so for tablets and mobile phones. The two best ones are Infinite Flight and X-Plane 10 Mobile. Now, X-Plane Mobile was actually developed from X-Plane 10 for desktop, and Infinite Flight has the advantage of being an exclusively mobile flight simulator since the beginning. So both are very nice. Again, in terms of how the plane will behave, X-Plane is maybe a little bit more realistic, but here it doesn't really matter so much, I think, because, I mean, if you're flying on your phone, yeah. Now, also, scenery, both have nice scenery, but X-Plane has 3D buildings and stuff like that. Now, X-Plane 10 is actually free, and Infinite Flight costs, I don't know, I think around $5 or something like this, so not a lot, but if you want global flight and multiplayer, you'll have to pay a subscription in both simulators. Now, there are also some other mobile simulators. I think Airfly exists for mobile, and there's also a simulator called Real Flight Simulator. But those two are still nice, maybe not so popular than these ones. Now, Infinite Flight also has a really nice community. So yeah, if you want to play flight simulators also on mobile, this is something that might interest you. But yeah. Now let's go to hardware. What kind of computer will you need? You will need some kind of gaming machine, but you actually don't have to spend a fortune. Now, in terms of operating systems, Windows is by far the best option, because not only it has the most flight simulators, but peripherals and some add-ons are only available on Windows. So yeah. Now Now, X-Plane is also available on Mac, and as I said earlier, Flight Gear is on Linux. It's free. But yeah, generally, if you are really serious about it, you'll have to go with Windows. Sorry. Now, about what to put inside the PC. Here I've listed some options, very general. For entry level PC, which will run X-Plane on lower or also maybe medium-ish settings depending on the plane. Core i3 processor, GTX 750 and 8GB of RAM is probably the minimum I'd go with. A computer like that will cost you around $400, and this is probably the cheapest I'd go with for a flight simulator PC. I actually use my flight simulator on a very similar machine and it runs X-Plane just fine. Now, mid-range i5 GTX 1080 and 16 gigs of RAM this is the machine that will be able to play any simulator, including the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Maybe not on the highest settings, but still. If you want to go a bit higher than this, then you have the i7/Ryzen 5 option and the newest RTX series cards and at least 16 gigs of RAM, but 32 would be ideal. Now, of course, some people and PC enthusiasts will go way higher than this, but I just wanted to give you a general idea what kind of computer you'll need for flight simulation. So yeah, this high-end machine I've listed here will be able to run all of the simulators on high settings. Now, getting started, this is actually the hard part. You have your simulator and everything, and now you have to learn stuff. Now, I think the best option is to get involved in the simulation community. Even better is if they say aviation community, I meant simulation community. Now, even better is if you have a friend who already is in flight simulation stuff, or you can always meet new people who know something about this. So learning from others is a great way. And yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions, but do some research first, because most of the basics you probably will be able to figure out on by yourself. So yeah. Now, the basics of aviation, you'll have to learn them in order to fly, but you probably already know a lot. And even if you don't, if you're interested in flight simulators, probably it won't be an issue for you, because you will love to learn about that stuff. Now, what else will you need? You will need at least a joystick. It is really a must-have for any simmer, more on that later. And you will need the will to learn. It can be hard at the beginning, but it is very rewarding, and eventually you will become a better simmer. And remember, you don't actually have to know everything. There are a lot of people that take flight simulation very seriously, but you don't have to. The point is to have fun, not to impress people with how much you know or something like that. So yeah, just learn while you go and have fun. Expanding your hobby. Now, this is probably the main thing about flight simulation, that you can do a lot. Your options are really limitless. Sky's the limit, literally. Or virtual sky, well, yeah. Now, in this section, I'll go over hardware, software, and community. Now let's start with hardware, I mean peripherals. Some people really care a lot about them, others don't really, and prices range from a few hundred to tens of thousands of dollars, so yeah. Now, first of all, as I've mentioned earlier, you are gonna need a joystick. At least a joystick. It is the most basic peripheral, and yeah, actually all you need. Now prices are ranging from about $40 or $50 for a basic joystick. The one I have is here on the right. Or a few $100 for a high-end HOTAS, which means hands-on throttle and stick. And this is what you see on the left. This is a Logitech example of it. Now, if you are really only be using a joystick, it's really useful that it has twist control. So for the rudder surface of the airplane, it must not only tilt like the whole joystick, but also twist if you won't get any rudder pedals. This is really a nice feature to have, although there is auto rudder in, I think, all of the major flight simulators. It's nice to have that manual control of the rudder. Now, Logitech G and Trustmaster are the most well-known brands. There are some others. I have a Trust joystick and it works just fine for me. But yeah, those are the two people usually go with. Now, a step up from joystick is yoke plus rudder pedals, and this is where it stops for most of the flight simulator fans. There are various yokes on the market, and yeah. Now, what is the point of having a yoke? Well, if you're gonna be flying planes like Cessnas and Boeings, those planes have yokes, not sticks. So it is just more realistic. Now, I personally am not a big yoke fan myself. I have a yoke, but mostly fly with a stick because I fly planes with a stick in the simulator mostly. So Airbus planes and also light planes, general aviation planes which have sticks. I don't know, it just this way. Also in real life I fly a plane which has a stick, so yeah. Now, the most popular yoke is probably the Logitech G Flight yoke system. This was actually the only moderately priced option for a long time, and it still is the best budget option. I think it costs around $150 and it works just fine. Now, recently a new yoke has been introduced by Honeycomb. It's called the Alpha yoke, and this has by far the best money to quality ratio. It costs around $250, I think, and I would highly recommend it. I've only heard good things about it. Really, really worth it from what I've heard. It has many advantages, and you can watch some comparisons on YouTube and some reviews. A lot of people have made them. Now, the best high-end option is Virtual Fly Yoko. This is mostly for the really people who want the best. It costs around $1,000, so yeah, most of average flight simmers won't spend that amount of money. It is also nice if you are building a home cockpit, especially a general aviation home cockpit. Some people really like it. High quality, and yeah. Now, there are also the cheapest yokes there are, I think, are the CH products yokes. I would avoid those ones if I were you because they are badly made, cheaply made. I would try and spare those, I don't know, few tens of dollars and buy a Logitech yoke if you really can't get anything better, because I mean, it's your decision, but I would avoid CH products yokes, so yeah. Now pedals, you I think have three most popular options. Thrustmaster is a nice option for uh, people who don't want to spend much. Now a step up from this is Logitech G. I have those pedals, they are very versatile, work just fine. And then there's also Virtual Fly pedals, which are the high-end option. Again, they cost a lot more money. But I mean, at the end of the day, they are all just rubber pedals. They do the same basic job. I don't think having good rudder pedals is as important as having a good yoke, but it is important that you have rudder pedals, because you really need them in order to fly realistically. Also, if you're not gonna be using a yoke, I'd still recommend getting rubber pedals with a stick if you can. Now, as for other peripherals, there are a whole bunch of throttles, panels, and some people even build their own home cockpits. Here is an example of this. But yeah, if you're starting out, I don't think you'll go with this straight away. So yeah. Now, add-ons. So we've come to software. There are a lot of different add-ons for all of the simulators, so a lot of planes, scenery, and other add-ons. Now, an add-on is software you purchase additionally and add to your flight simulator. Now, there are a lot of them for Microsoft Flight Simulator, X-Plane 11, and P3D. Here are some examples of this. Now, the benefits of using add-on planes is mostly that they're more realistic and really well made. So on X-Plane there are also some very good free add-ons. Also on other simulators, but on X-Plane almost all Boeing fans get the ZiboMod 737, which is ultra realistic free add-on for the 737. Yeah, so a plane, a flight model. Also for some flight simulators, especially X-Plane and the old Microsoft Flight Simulator X or 10, there are scenery add-ons, so you have better looking scenery than you normally would. Now on the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, of course, this is not needed, as the scenery itself is so beautiful that I don't know why anyone would want this, so there aren't any add-ons, I think. Now let's get to the last part, the community. This is one of the really nice parts of flight simulation, because there are a lot of very nice people who will share things with you. Even when you are a beginner starting out, they can make things a lot more clear. And yeah, they range from social media groups like on Facebook and subreddits on Reddit, and there's also some forums from X-Plane's forum, which is I think their official forum, and then even a home cockpit builders forum and stuff like that. Yeah. Now another way to get engaged in the community is multiplayer and virtual airlines. Still a very nice and also popular thing. Now, for those who really want the highest possible realism, there are online air traffic simulation networks. The two that I know are VATSIM and IVAO. VATSIM, which I think stands for Virtual Air Traffic Simulation, is probably the most realistic approximation to real-world flying. Now, what this does is you connect, people from multiple platforms connect, so X-Plane, FSX, Microsoft Flight Simulator, P3D, it supports all of those softwares. And then you talk to ATC, you have to respect all the procedures and stuff. So this is probably the most realistic approximation to real-world flying. Now, IVAO is something very similar, maybe a little bit less realistic, but it is more active in some countries, like mine. Slovenia has a strong IVAO community. Alright, this will be all for this video. I hope I covered all of the basics. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also leave a like if this video was helpful. I really hope it was. Goodbye.